Here is our mage in action. Let's go through the skill first and how do I rotate them. I'll go through the skill details, the talent tree, and the passives with you guys after. Quickly, we can see that we have 2 to wisdom and 1 to toughness, so this is a very tanky mage. After that, our items, nothing too special. Those are the basic items we bought from the shop. Those are levels 90, yes, but keep in mind those stats can be found onto lower level gears, and we're facing a level 90 dungeon at the moment. So right away into the skills, we have the blink. This blink is very far, we do leave a decoy, and with enough willpower, we can almost sustain the blink almost indefinitely. So this is very good. After that, we have the infinite casting of invisibility. We have invisibility, we can blink, we can roll for more invisibility, and we can blink again. We can cast invisibility again once we have enough rage. The biggest factor for this particular mage is that we want enough rage and enough willpower. So we want to balance them into about 750. So we want both of those resources. And of course, the highlight will also be anomaly. We can cast it twice, and this is a great AoE stun. This stuns enemy by pulling them to the center. This also debuffs them. We do have an attack spell, which gives us freeze and also burning. We do have our main source of spell damage with annihilation, which gives us stasis, and also curse. Curse can be stacked with 30 times, and this is incredibly strong with additional damage. Let's have a look at this mage in action. So we're facing a level 90 dungeon here. We're gonna go invisible before we face any enemies, and invisibility is quite nice. So I did miss one. As you can see, I missed one of my core controls, but I managed to get 2 because the perks we have, we can cast 2 of the core controls. Now let me practice again. Let's go invisible. Those are enemies. 1 core control. Now what we're gonna do with this particular mage is we want to have a look at how much HP enemy has. Enemy has over 12k HP, over 115k HP. So most enemies about half a mil, or the boss monster is about 1 to 2 mil HP. So here's a demonstration for boss. Let's see how we do with that. It's pretty good. I've tested a little bit right beforehand. So we can bypass a lot of monsters too. So let's drop a smoke so they can't see us. Now if we're in danger, oh, we can blink, we can move, we can reposition ourselves, and we'll get the spells off. And that was a 1 million HP boss. Let's try this again. There's another boss there. So we can engage, we can finish those guys first. So what I'm going to do is, when there is a high amount of resource with my spell power, I'm going to drag them and I'm going to use my spell power. But when there's a high rage, I'm going to drag them, I'm going to use my rage power. And both of them hit very hard over time, because we debuff them so many times. So I'm going to draw first, engage the boss. Let's have a look. Okay, we'll clear the ads first. So here I have lots of willpower, so I'm going to melt them. And if you look at them, this monster, this is about half mil of HP. And he does not survive. And in the off chance he casts anything AoE or anything onto us, we can finish him off. So that was a half mil HP boss, and this is so safe. This build has, well, over close to 70k HP, and we don't need damage at all. I mean, we deal enough damage over time, and we're very safe because enough HP, no one can one-shot us. So if we're in danger, we just blink, we'll leave a decoy, and that's a half mil HP monster as well. And of course, you can tell that I'm not that familiar with Mage because my initial playstyle was with warriors, but I'm getting the hang of it because it's very flexible. I'm loving it right now. And yeah, kudos to my friend who made up this build. Oof, so powerful. Loving it. Because in the high levels, I'm finding it difficult to defeat enemies that has such a high HP base that can one-shot me. And this build actually fixed that as well. Let's go test a little more. So here, I'm gonna go permanent invisibility because I have so much raise, I can just move around. I can go invisible. And if I move around, I go invisible again. Because 3 seconds CD, well, 3 second duration. If I move, I go invisible again. So basically the monster's just waiting for me to hit them. I can invisible, I can cast spells while invisible. And I also have lots of dodge rate. But this is so powerful when you have enough rage. But when you don't have enough rage, you have enough spell powers to blink around indefinitely. So very flexible mage. So here, I'm getting more spell power, so I know I can blink around. I drag them in, I blink around, drag them in, I can spin some of my rage, the damage really stacks up massively. So this is a 300k HP unit, and they really have trouble hitting us as well, because each time we blink, we also leave a decoy. So hopefully you guys enjoy this. Let's get into the details of what this character actually has. What are the skill talent trees? What are the perks? And so right into it, we mentioned about the skill choice. Surprisingly enough, we don't need that much of the critical damage on the spells or attacks, so we actually didn't add any points into ferocity. It's about 1 to 2 into the toughness and wisdom. Wisdom in order to debuff enemies, and toughness in order to have enough HP, as you can see here. And we'll be picking some of the perks that increase maximum HP as well. So we'll get into the skill first, and after getting into the skills, we'll get into the talents, and I'll explain both of them. I'll also get into the items. We'll get into items first then. So the items will look for cooldown reduction. We'll look for cooldown reduction on the helmet, we'll look for cooldown reduction on the chest, look for cooldown reduction on the pants, and look for cooldown reduction on the leg, on the, the shoes if we can, leggings. We'll look for cooldown reduction, we'll look for the reduction to rage and willpower. And in terms of weapons, nothing too special. Here we wanted another form of debuff, so I actually had this attack weapon. Yes, this is the attack weapon for 2 of the offensive slot, 1 of the, any of the other slot, in order to have enough force damage. So one of my attack spells will actually debuff enemy with freeze, and because innate this weapon has fire, so I want both fire and freeze. After that, as for the catalyst, we'll be going for a bit of the regeneration of willpower, a bit of the spell critical hit damage. Those are very flexible, you can go with any of that. So as for the rings, we're actually going for the maximum HP here. So if you look at the rings, if I take it off and put it on, I actually gain about 3800 HP just for an 800 HP ring, because there's so many perks that give us HP. Now let's get into the skills. This is one of the 2 of the offensive spells we have. This is the Rage Spender. This is pretty much a rogue spell. This is why we use daggers, or we can use a bow. Sorry, we can use guns, we can use a dagger, which are one-handed ranged weapons, or the assassin weapons. For this one, it's optional. If you are going for a gun here, it's okay. You don't have to have a dagger. Just ideally, you do want a weapon that gives us both of the debuff. Here, the both of the debuff is in the form of freeze, because we suck it with freeze gems, and also we have the burn stacks. This is when you unlock the newt with the perk, which you can have additional alignments. So every of a spell actually debuff enemy twice in different ways. So this one only debuff once because this is a defensive spell with curse. This one will debuff enemy with status and also curse. This one will debuff enemy with burn and also curse. This one will debuff enemies with status and curse. You can see this is the ultimate debuff unkillable mage that's very versatile. So again, we can blink around, there's so many good things to it. Now, getting into the perks. Nothing too special about the hover crop. You can feel it around and you can try it out. So what I do recommend trying out is definitely have this one, which allows you to fire multiple bombs at a reduction to weapon damage. You don't lose that much weapon damage. So here you can see we go from 9,400 to 7,000. And yes, this is a quite sizable of a loss, but this allows you to fire multiple of those balls, and actually you do much more damage with it. I went for the slow efficiency because within the talent tree we have a talent. If enemy is slowed, we do 25% more damage. Bit of the weapon damage, bit of the critical chance, just so we do additional damage when we crit. And yeah, very straightforward for this one. And additional weapon damage here. Now on to the next one. This is one of the first utility spells we have. So we have 2 Rage Spenders. The first one spend about 200 range, the second one spend about 446 range. The Rage Spenders are very essential because we'll be rotating both willpower and rage all the time. And having enough cooldown reduction and being able to reduce cooldowns with the perks here allows us to have a 3-second duration of invisibility with dodge chances, with curses, with the dropping of the alignments, which clears our alignments. They also increase the duration of the spell. We have the rage minus cost. We also have the about to attack while we're invisible, while we're dodging. So not only this is a utility spell, because we're invisible for almost indefinitely if we have enough rage, which only costs 46, this is a very powerful spell in terms of all level of fighting. And the only factor is we don't get rage conversion that fast because I was not able to find the gears for that. because I bought most of the gears from the shop, and that was one of the weaknesses. So you can see that my conversion of energy is not fast enough, but it should be enough. The moment I get enough, I just convert, I go into invisibility, no one sees me, and the monster just ignores me. Just making sure you have enough range to multiple casts if you need to. Next up, we go for Anomaly. Anomaly, we do want to increase the area effect, which is very important. Second to that, we want to increase the duration, because this is pretty much a stun. And the duration of this spell is 6 seconds, cooldown is 6.2 seconds. You could almost use it, kind of always have it on if you do it correctly. And most of the time we can cast 2 of them, so almost indefinitely you can have this stun on with you because of the cooldown reduction. After that, we have increased alignment damage inside of the vortex, which will be doing a lot of alignments and a lot of debuffs. This is very important. We'll be pulling enemies multiple times, so it's a constant stun. After that, we have the increase of chances for alignments and allows us to cast twice, which is key. The 2 key crucial ones are the ones that pulls enemy in and the ones that allows us to cast twice. You can fiddle around with other ones depending how you like it. After that, let's go into the second utility spell of the build. This particular utility spell has reducing willpower, the alignment stacks. Because we have so much willpower, I don't really need to guarantee I have 1 stack with status. I can just blink around with burn and also curse chances. Followed by that, we can leave a decoy for additional distraction while we're invisible. Sometimes it might not be good because enemies will be AoEing the decoy, but most of the time it's okay. So we can increase attack speed and casting speed after using the spell, which is very good. Increase movement, and this removes our crowd control. Lastly, we can reduce the cooldown. Because we have such a low cooldown, because of everything that's reducing the cooldown, we don't have to go for the minus 5.2 seconds, we can go for minus 1 seconds, and 0.8 seconds of the cooldown is absolutely fine. Yeah, this is definitely enough. And it's a very far range, even without adding for one of the ranges. So, lastly, we have the willpower spender, which is the majority of our damage. And this is what melts bosses from half a mil, 1 mil or 2 mil damage. And you don't see much of the damage on the board, but what this allows us to do is to apply status and also apply curses. We have perks that apply so many curses, we can stack up to 30 curses. And each of those stacks increase damage taken by the enemy. Getting right into it, minus willpower, nothing too special. Damage increased over the time because the stronger we hit, the better it is. Over here we have a bit of the critical chances, we have a bit of the alignment damage. Average damage minus 30 because this allows us to hit multiple units. It's okay, we don't lose that much. So if you look here, losing 30% damage goes from 2000 to 1900. So it's not a multiplicative, it's additional damage. So in that sense, we don't lose that much damage. Critical damage, and also we have the willpower. So we can see most of the spells, and if you look into my combat damage, I don't do that much damage. So the majority of the source of damage come from debuffs and come from damage over time. Let's get into the perks. So yes, I did spend all 90 points here, but what I'll go through you guys is what points to add first while we level up, and what points are optional, and in the end, what points can be considered, very flexible. Of course, having all those points will help, and you can be more flexible. So, getting right into it, we'll start with a Mage Perk. We'll go through the mages with, alignment damage, spell damage, we can go up to here. We can get this particular perk. So, over here, we increase the status alignment chance by 60%. Because we have so much willpower, this kind of in return give us more debuff chance. I'm sitting on close to 40% debuff chance with everything, 44%, and over here we'll have 40%. So 40% or 35% should be enough for us. And here, Occasional status effect are the ones that we have with those 3. Occasional deals with the status, weakness, and also curse, which increase the damage enemy takes. Very good for us. Followed by that, I want to get to which cannot heal. So I want to get to Time Waver as quickly as we can, because we'll be dealing a lot of the status debuff and want to make more damage out of it. So we'll be perking right away into this particular perk, and while we're at it, we'll be adding this particular perk. So the Kabbalist allows us to have 1 additional alignment. This is how most of my spells actually have 2 alignments. In order to see what alignments I have, keep in mind, for the attack spells, it's the 2 source of highest elemental damage that's on your attack. Here we have fire because the weapon has fire. Second to that, I socket in the ice gems, so now I have fire and ice. This allows the attack spells to have both of those alignments. As for the spells, you really want to check what the spells actually does and if they can add particular perks by debuffing enemies. So here I think, oh, where did it go? Yeah, here I have a perk that gives me the debuff of enemies, and this is how some of my spells can also debuff enemies. After getting the first perk that increases damage, we want to go to the next perk that increases damage, which will be this one. The Blustering Embrace allows us to make use of the fire stacks we deal onto enemies, and after that dealing more fire stack and killing an enemy allow us to quickly spread into more fire damage. This is great in sucking enemy together with Anomaly, and then killing them with fire stack of damage. So this spell actually powers the Havoc Orb, which does a lot of high fire damage. After that, the defensive capabilities we can go into, but usually at the early leveling we don't have to worry about defensive that much, so we can go right into the Captured Velocity. This means when enemy is debuffed with the status effect, after killing it we gain spell power and attack speed. You might think attack speed is not that much, but keep in mind we do have an attack spell which uses attack speed. So spellcasting and attack speed will be great for us. And once we're here, there's two choices. If you feel like you need more damage, yes, we can go to the perks that gives more damage. But if you feel like you need survivability, there's two choices. We can go with the Dire Juncture, which allows us to take 60% of damage 1 second later. Because we have so much HP and so much defensive mechanics, it's actually pretty good. And usually nothing one-shots us with over close to 60 effective HP. And if you don't feel that's enough, going to the perk over here with the Branded Burst. This gives us 10 points, and after taking the small knot here, which gives us another 5%, so with 5 10 points, we'll be looking at 100% damage reduction for the first hit and 80% for the second attack, and this goes further. Because we're constantly invisible and constantly blinking and dodging and going invisible again, so it's harder for them to hit us multiple times, and this keeps us alive. Yes, here those two are the survivability points, but if you go for damage, there's a few over here. The first one we can look into is definitely the Residual Energy. This allows us to add additional damage from the last spell. So if I was doing spell from my fire damage, I can add damage to my ethanol damage and vice versa. And while we're at it, we can quickly perk through over here, and we can also get additional energy with willpower and rage. Because we'll be rotating them, it's better to have more of them to play around with. By going through this section, we can consider getting additional damage for enemies that's far away from us because we're likely to keep a distance, but we can also take this one, which gives another 25% damage for the units that are slowed. Notice we have lots of eyes, we have lots of ways to slow enemies. This is great. And this is almost the bread and butter for the mage spell, which is Annihilation. This allows us to deal occasional damage increased for every curse that's stacked onto the enemy, and we'll be stacking close to 30 curse onto the boss, and this gives us 150% additional damage. On top of that, we will do additional damage for more curse stack, so we're looking at 7% for each stack, and after 30 stacks it's 210% more damage. After adding those, I think you'll be looking at about only having about 20 or 30 points left, so this is when you can actually start to be more flexible. What I really like is getting into this particular perk with the Wolcen Smoke. This allows us to go invisible for 5 seconds after using a roll. Because I'm all about survivability, all about dodging spells, after rolling or after engaging, when I want to engage enemies, I can roll first, I go invisible, and then I initiate my spells on the perfect casting point. We can go to the next perk to get additional 5 seconds, so now I want to roll, I have a 10 second of invisibility. And this is enough, because this allows me to regenerate the 10 points as well. And there's multiple sorts of invisibility as well. One thing to keep in mind, this does not work multiple times, because it has a cooldown of 12 seconds. So each time you roll, you can't go invisible again for the next 12 seconds. But knowing that we have enough of the spells to go invisible, we don't have to rely on one source of defensive invisibility. Followed by that, likely will be in the level 70, level 80 range, and this is when you consider taking those perks. This one allows us to cast spells faster, which is pretty good because, you know, the faster you cast, the more likely you stun and deal damage to enemies. You also attack faster, which allows our attack spells to cast faster. Followed by that, we can go with the critical hit damage and minus 30 damage. 30 damage is not a lot, but critical hit damage is multiplicative, and this will multiply onto our existing damage. One thing to highlight with you guys is while I'm going to the smoke form, I actually increase my critical rate chances. So let's have a look. Currently I'm looking at 22% critical rate chances, but once we have enough energy rage over here, if I go into this shroud, now I'm looking at 29% critical rate chances. I gained about 7% critical rate chances by just going to the shroud. And I also gain evasion, I also gain, you know, drops alignment, I also gain a lot of things, and I can, you know, even cast while I'm invisible. So although this build looks on the table, we don't have enough damage, but in reality we actually have lots of survivability, lots of damage. It's actually becoming one of my favorite builds right now, so it's really interesting. Let me know what you guys think and give it a try, because I'll be attaching the save files for you guys as usual onto Discord, and this allows you to download the files and also try it out. Of course, nothing is fixed here. It's the idea of debuffing enemies and not going fully for critical hit damage, and also focus on survivability. That's the highlight of this mage build. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed this one. I'm looking forward to a hunter build or a ranger build to come next. So also, if you have a good build, offline or online, let me know. Feel free to share with me, and we can make a guide together. We can share with everyone and have more fun with Wolcen. Thank you so much for watching, guys.